All right, all right. Good morning, traders. Happy Friday. Welcome out to the end of a week. It's been a tumultuous week, a tumultuous few weeks, a tumultuous few months. I feel like we've seen what's going on pretty well. Just because you see what's happening doesn't mean you're necessarily going to just go out there and trade a lot. In fact, seeing it is what may have you trading less. Good morning, Mikhail. Good to see you. Good morning, Bob. Good morning, Fred. Hello, Desi from Ireland. Top of the morning to you. Although I guess it's the afternoon. But good morning. Fantastic Friday to you, Dennis. Buenos dias, Ricardo. Good morning, John. Good morning, Faust. I love the energy. My goodness, you guys are awesome. Good morning to you, Faust. Good to see you. Good morning, Han. Also, quite a distance away from here on the other side of the world. Good morning, LK. Good morning, Thomas. Good morning, Teresa. Yes, let's go. I love it. Great enthusiasm. Welcome to the Trade Spoon live trading room. Stocks and options opening bell. My name is Scott, and I will be your host. For those who don't know me, I am the head trading coach here at Trade Spoon. I have been trading for a while and teaching trading for a while. And I need to introduce you to our disclosures. Please keep this in mind. Be careful out there. And let's get going. Oh, it's good. Friday. We've got coffee. The sun is shining. It's 33 degrees, a brisk 33 degrees. The market futures are up. We said we even didn't make an adjustment to our butterfly because we said there's a good chance we might see a bump from here. How much of a bump, we don't know. In fact, this bump is really valuable and important information in this for the short term of the market. Not Twitter. Yeah, right. We talked about that where we said, oh, if information comes out at any point that this deal may fall through. And now that everything has dropped 20% since his offer, he's like, well, wait a second. I don't want to pay this now. Oh. And thank you for asking, Fred. The knee, my son's knee is recovering very well. He's in PT. It's going well. Thank you for asking. Okay, so let's talk about it. What news? I don't even remember if there was specific news today. Advance? No, that's a week later. I am simulcast on YouTube this. Well, what? Good morning, YouTube. I feel like I'm an influencer now or something like that. It's epic. That's very cool. I had no idea. I wondered. Michigan sentiment came in, is coming in. Expected to stay somewhat in range, down just a little bit. I don't think there's much there. Minneapolis Fed Neil Kashkari speaking later in the morning. We're getting a pretty good sense of what they're talking about. Next week, there is a bit more data. Empire State Manufacturing on Monday. We've got retail sales, industrial production capacity utilization. Then we have on Wednesday real estate with building and permits and housing starts, regular Thursday news, and then whoops, that went a little too far. Friday, nothing. Okay, so it's really Tuesday into Wednesday. There's a little bit. Let's see how the model sees things as of now. There's been a good amount of neutrality, but really is shifted into more of a bearish perspective. And we've been talking about, are we going to see a little bit of a bounce up, a little kick followed by this bearish drop to lower lows. That's how the model sees it. There's not enough buying pressure, and it's looking for a short-lived fade the rally type situation, right? So what does that tell us? It tells us if we're putting on bullish trades, it would be yesterday to today, where we're looking for this thing to pop. Right? That would be the situation. But you have to be very prepared that they could be short-lived. Like, you might think, hey, I might be calling the bottom, but you got to be really aware that this market's more bearish than not, right? And the model is reminding you of that here. So you may just continue. Yeah, great observation, Fred. Fred said Stella's losing amplitude on the bounce, right? Not as much. As you start to watch from day to day, you can see the little adjustments that might get made, where before it might have said it's coming up here and then coming down. Whereas now the prediction's like, oh, the buyers are just, their failure to come in is what's causing the model to adjust those price expectations for less of an upside. Absolutely. Good observation. So there it is, SPY, more bearish than not. So the options are, now we have on a butterfly where we said we wanted to come up a little bit. So even if it is just 2 or 3 days, then we might then have the ability to make a better adjustment, although it might be today in the afternoon. I said 3, no, what did I say? 4 something. We'll take a look at it. But later in the afternoon, if it's up in that right range, I might put it on so that I can get a weekend's worth of time decay with a second butterfly. That just is a great advantageous start to a time decay strategy. Okay, so let's go through QQQ. Yeah, not much of an upswing at all right now. It's saying that it might not consolidate to the upside at all before it just continues on grinding down. Bearish on the Qs. Let's look at DIA. Good morning to you, Albert. Happy Friday indeed. So Desi from Ireland left. I think I offended her with my Irish accent. Was it offensive? I thought it was a good Irish accent, maybe welcoming. Desi, if you hear this, I apologize if it was offensive. All in good fun. Let's see. Diamonds, a slight consolidation into this bearish kick down. That's 3 out of 3. What's left? The Russell. I was reading something about the Russell. The Russell's already been bearish, right? The Russell's down 28% from its highs. And as such, has a greater likelihood that that a recession is already priced in to their prices, whereas the SPY has another 10% potentially to go. Now this is just based on historical patterns, averages of how much something drops into a recession. Doesn't necessarily mean, right? It could be less, it could be more this time, but there is that. However, I think with the IWM, with the Russell leading us down, I think I am going to start adding it as more of a component to complete like an overall broader market reversal, right? When the Russell shows the break of consolidation, higher high, higher low transition, especially if it's the first one, That's going to definitely help me to say, okay, I like that. I'm going to start taking more risk to the upside now. I'm not saying that's what I see happening now. I'm saying I'm going to integrate that into my overall thought process as I assess the market. You can see even now, Stella is like still bullish for whatever. It's still bullish. There's the opening bell. We know that overall the cycle still indicates sideways, although it's weird. It almost looks more bullish all of a sudden than the computations than I've seen it, but it's still overall kind of that grind. It's just not a lot there from a cyclical standpoint. Okay. So this is something I think we're going to see. I just had this chart up, Airbnb, right? Airbnb, where is it? Like a lot of things. It's down here. You know what I should do? I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I think this is like a default chart, and it sometimes pops back in there. So give me 1 second. I'm going to make a little adjustment. Because of where we are, I definitely would want to have a couple of 50s. That one's green. Not a couple of 50s. Couple of moving averages, one of which will be a 50, and the other one will be red. Okay. All right. So well below both. We're far from them. You're going to see that a lot of our stocks, a lot of the patterns that we see are things touching new lows down here. This to me is possibly then even an accelerated consolidation, right? I need to see the buyers show me something. I mean, as of right now, I would say they've got to get up at least, that was a freehand straight line, up to here, getting through that line, and then coming back down, and then I think, okay, look at that. The buyers did a little smash and grab. The sellers couldn't respond. Now we have something a little bit more. You'll notice it actually happened back there. There was a good effort made. There's the consolidation. It broke through it. It came down. Boom. That's a great trade. You'd make some money on that trade right there. It didn't do much after. You might have taken another stab at it only to watch it start to meander, shut down, and that's probably a break-even trade, and then you're out. It's important to be realistic with our expectations of, as we're trading, what exactly are we looking for? What is it going to look like when I'm right? What's it going to look like when I'm wrong? They're going to look very much the same on the entry. That's the point. But setting expectations now of what you need to see in order to be more comfortable with the market. So right now we are seeing this thing bounce bullishly, but this is a bounce off of what is now a support level in the context of a downward consolidation or downward trend, right? There it is. That's our environment. Let's go look at the SPY on the open. And we're up 1.14. I think we said like 403, right? So I'm gonna wait and see if we get even a little. Do we get one of these? A couple of days, 3 days? Does it get up? I mean, it's got a ways to go. How you draw the consolidation might, impact it. This seems to be fairly representative, where we had a couple of times that it broke out and couldn't hold. So for me, I'm thinking if it can get up there, that's where I might put the other butterfly on. But if it can get through there, then on the pullback into the next consolidation where it's confirmed when the sellers cannot muster enough to push it back down to the old lows. Now, if they push it back to the old lows, you'll notice it's still on a break of the consolidation. So it's still in setup for a reversal. It just hasn't quite done it yet. Could you trade off that as a double bottom? Sure. But that double bottom isn't fully complete until it takes out as a pattern this high here. So you'll notice I'm doing a lot of kind of what if, what would it look like? So I can have already visualized it, already seen it, and know what I'm going to do with it. As of right now, what's it doing? It's trying to bounce off the lows, right? It's trying to bounce off the lows. Overall, my market posture is still bearish. I don't know about everybody else. So this is not all that exciting necessarily, right? Because we're not that bullish. We're not bullish. Saying, is this going to hold? Is this the buyer's going to give us enough that we're going to actually be able to do something with it? Or are we going to be stuck in this quagmire, right? We were all so hopeful back here, right? Because we had this little quagmire. That one lasted a couple of months, almost 3. Well, it was good trading back before that, right? We get to Christmas and it just sort of fell apart. So we had that consolidation. Trading was pretty difficult. There wasn't a lot going on in that. We got a little bit of a bump, and then it's just more of this to new lower lows. Yeah, it's going to be a long day. We're going to see. Even if we end up here, it's not like I'm like, oh, now I'm bullish. It's like, okay, it needs to still come up like this, and that will give us early next week an opportunity to either close the butterfly for a slight profit or adjust it. There's not going to be enough right now, right? It's not going to be. Today is not enough. It's only 1%. We needed like 2.5. So we got to be patient and see what happens. What else do we want to see as we talk about the momentum, current direction, and future short-term future prognosis for the market? Obviously the VIX. Obviously the VIX, right? So there's the VIX. You can see we've just been kind of doing this very similar to what we had the last time. We're just sort of was doing this wandering. What was the signal that we relied on to really try to catch at least a decent piece of that move? You had our VIX up in these highs. Like right now, we have the VIX up in some highs. And then it came down, and it was just 3 days right there, right? 1, 2, 3. And you can see we actually already have 2 days right now, 1, 2, which might mean on Friday, 3. And then what happened? And then it turned for 2 days. Now, in the beginning of that, when that first happens, and I was the same way back there in early March, when that first happens, what are my thoughts? That looks bearish. That looks escalating. That's a higher, that one right there, John, that's the higher low. That says, oh gosh, right? The higher low that we saw there, the higher low that we saw there, right? Boom, boom, boom. What's the fear? Boom. And that's what takes us. You've probably read some people. Like I saw a guy who's like, oh yeah, we're not done until this thing blows into at least the 40s. That's up there. That's where it's like, oh, that's where Dennis Gartman gets his 5 or 6% down day. And if you see that, that's when you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to ride it now, but it might be that's the end, and you take your profits on that day. So that is certainly my thought. But like happened over here in March, we got 2 up days, and then we got this bearish engulfing on the VIX, and it created a lower high. So if we go up for a couple of days and we turn over instead of continuing to escalate, no, we roll over for a lower high, right? There's another one of those lower highs coming out of that's one of your best bullish trades. That's one of your best bullish trades. There's money on the sidelines ready to come in if the institution's given. Now, does it last? No, not always. It hasn't been lately, right? There may still be more lately, but all I need is this short-term pattern to show up. And this is one that might not be accompanied by the model. And I'm still gonna, this is its own set of reversal circumstances generated through the VIX and through Just the types of patterns that you can see over and over. You can see how well the higher lows have worked. I hope everyone's been, utilizing that in hedging and their risk management, because it's been pretty effective. So right now, this is why I'm saying this is an important, like, Friday, Monday, Tuesday transition, because if we get one more day, this thing is now set up for a bounce higher, and that bounce higher, if it's going to go bearish, it's going to start there. So if you're going to try to trade it, you're going to have to trade it right there on that higher low. And you have to be ready to shift quickly if it only goes for a couple of days. It's like, okay, you're wrong. Shut the bears down. Get some bulls on. And if you get this confirmed lower high on the VIX, this is one of the strongest bull signals, especially coming out of these elevated environments like we've seen here. All right, so I get it. As you break down what I just said, you're like, oh, so it's either going higher or lower, Scott. That's so insightful with your best sarcastic voice. I get it. But what I'm saying is we will see these patterns to determine which one it is very quickly, right? You have to decide before whether or not you're going to trade it, but you want to know also before what's it going to look like to actually say this thing is now ready to go the other way. Because as of right now, it's just a bunch of chop, right? There you go. Capitulation VIX. That's it, Kevin. That's it. And again, it might be one move. Hopefully it's a couple of moves, but okay, then we'll adjust and then we'll watch for the higher lows. And we're just kind of letting the sentiment confirm what we're seeing through the model and through price. Makes it hard to put on or hold trades just prior to the weekend. It does, right? Because it's like, wait, do we have enough information to trade this? It's hard to say yes yet, right? Let's go look at the opening range. We seem to be maintaining bullish, right? We're down 5%. There's been some weird signals on the VIX lately. Yesterday was one of those, right? Where even though we were down, the VIX was also down. If you remember, the VIX is on its second day down. But if you look at yesterday, it was a white candle, but it was a VIX that went lower, right? So even though this was, I guess at the end of the day, it was pretty close to the same. But again, this could just be another one of these little bear flags. And if you're going to trade that thinking, well, I think Vlad said 380. We got to 385. I mean, he was within 5 points yesterday. So at 380 here, we're there basically. Let's go look at the watch list. See what there is that we may be interested in. Apple, as we all know, has a crucial role. This is Alcoa, still in. So this is materials, right? This is aluminum. You can just see this consolidation is just intact, right? It tried, couldn't do it. Boom, right back into the consolidation. If this had made a higher low, it might have been a signal to trade. Just never really quite did it. But overall, we're definitely still in bearishness on this, right? Apple is next. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Apple is next. Same thing, right? In fact, Apple it's up 1.3, but that doesn't look like, oh, look how bullish we are on Apple, right? There's one of those failed attempts that didn't hold. So we're still in here. I mean, honestly, this has got a long ways to go. Now let's say something like this happened. So we've talked about this before, where we might say this is now accelerating into a new consolidation, which then is actually, even though it's steeper, it's easier to break out of the other way. That's it, Teresa. Trading bearish on the buyer stop outs, right? So here you can see it's a little easier for it to come up out of this, but it's still the higher low, right? It's always the buyers have to take a good pull, then the sellers have to fail. When the sellers fail, because right now the sellers have done nothing but succeed for 2 straight months. The sellers have just been like, yeah, we own this. So now the buyers have to be more convincing for us to think anything is going to change. And for the NASDAQ to participate, Apple's got to be there. So yeah, this is one of those, this is a case for me. This is actually how I would be thinking it. I'd be thinking this is accelerated, which makes it actually easier to recover now. I don't need it to come all the way up here now, because it might come up, come down, then break through, and then I'm like, wait, I missed that trade. It really just has to break this accelerated line, then it has to give me the higher low, and on the higher low, ready to trade. Other than that, you might even decide if it doesn't, do you possibly consider that for a bearish trade? I mean, technology's been leading us down. ADI is flat. ADM continues to drop, so we're starting to see the staples showing some weakness. Amazon still in its downward consolidation, still not enough here. We're just 2 days up. AXP, look at the financials accelerating down, right? AXP almost got, it got to its lowest point in 6 months. Bank of America still consolidating down. Caterpillar, a lot of you can see it's ugly out there. Vlad said margin calls of hedge fund managers driving things down. Did I get that right? I mean, it could be, right? Because if you're getting margin calls, you got to satisfy the call, and you either satisfy it with additional cash or by selling something, and that would create selling pressure. So I would imagine that that's correct, that any margin call triggers that are coming out are causing additional selling pressure. So that's kind of a margin squeeze, which is the opposite side of a short squeeze. COP it's kind of turned, but even oil is looking a little like, I mean, when you really look at COP, even though we know energy and oil has been strong, it's gone sideways for 2 months. Campbell Soup was trying to make a move a little bit. You can see the stochastics never actually gave a turn because it was a steep last rise. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on this one. DBC, same kind of a thing. This one actually gave a sign, but it's just not really getting a lot of follow through, and you can see that it hasn't done nearly as much. John Deere is down. Looks like it might be finding a support bounce, but into what? Right? It's a lower low. We got earnings in 5 days. Yeah, Twitter. I saw. Was it only down? I swear I thought I was like, it didn't seem down as much as I thought it would be. Yeah, there you go, 11%. If that deal falls through, it's going to be back at 35, right? The more it falls through, the more it comes back down here. He said bots and fake accounts, but I think he just doesn't want to pay this price up here when if he hadn't intervened, let's see. It was around what, March 10th? So everything got a little bit of a bump, but the NASDAQ 328, 284, what's what, 15, 45 points. I mean, the NASDAQ's down, what, another 10, 12%? So if he had waited for that, this would have been down below 30. Right? Would have been below 30. And he probably could have scooped it up at 35. 40, but instead it's up here, and he's like, oh, I don't know about that. This will be interesting, I think. Can hedge funds be getting margin calls on both long or short positions? Well, I mean, theoretically, yeah. If you have a short position go against you, you know, and it generates it reduces your equity to the point that a margin call is triggered, then yes, it could. It's unlikely not what's happening this time, because that type of a margin call would be they could satisfy it. They could satisfy that margin call by selling something else in their portfolio. So it wouldn't necessarily have like that same kind of an impact. But the short squeeze is more when you're wrong and you just capitulate, buy to close to stop the pain. You're putting additional buying pressure. So the short squeeze pushes it up. The margin squeeze is just going to usually create selling pressure in order to create cash to satisfy the call. Okay, where are we? The VIX dropped below. Let's see how the SPY is doing. SPY is getting better, right? 1.4%. So for me, if we get 2.5 by the end of the day, I might look to put that other butterfly on. We'll go look at it before we wrap up today. I might look to put that on and get some extra time decay over the weekend. GLW is cornering. Well, it looks like it's just kind of meandering a little bit. EDR popped big on earnings, but that's just the first. I think it's going to come right back to 20. But if it comes back to 20 and holds, now you've got something, right? Now you've got a higher low. Now you've seen a full shift in the cycle of supply and demand tug of war. The VIX, somebody said, has dropped below 30. Now remember, that my kind of target numbers is all the way back here is where it needs to get to. But I'm thinking that if it's a higher low, maybe it's somewhere through here. So even if we get 3 days in a row like this, it's only going to put us to 28. 28 is definitely still higher low, still has some ramifications about it. Keep an eye on it. Where was I? Deer, diamonds, down. They're up, but not holding on to their gains the way the SPY is. Facebook. Oh, Facebook. You guys see my lines? You see what's happening here? Facebook on the table. It's on the table. I don't think Stella likes it, but I do, because I've been waiting for that, right? We broke it. Now, I was hoping it would hold there. It didn't, but it didn't also really close the gap. So I'm open to it. If it looks like this at the end of the day, now if at the end of the day it sells off and it's back down, doesn't have this signal, then maybe not. But yeah. Very nice, Fred. Fred closed a butterfly position for some good profits. Love it. Thank you for updating me. You guys know I love those neutral spreads, man. A lot of people tend to ignore them, but they're such great, in between trades that we can kind of manage while we are doing our directional trading, and it brings diversification to the portfolio. I love them. I dream. I dream of the day when we're back in a VIX 12 to 16, foundational zone, because I'll trade calendars week to week, just all day, every day. And that's actually a great market for directional trading. So I'll be doing the calendars and directional trading. Okay. So Facebook on the table. Patience paid off. That's an opportunity to consider. FCX is not. Doesn't look good. Gold. Look at gold, man. Continues to drop. Wait till next year, 2024, Mario says. No, sooner. Gold looks terrible. Terrible. IWM up 2.5%. But I mean, you can see it's really just 2 days. It hasn't broken any kind of like consolidation yet. You know, I'd have a hard time saying, well, this is a consolidation. I don't know yet, because if it comes up to here and then kind of turns over, then I'm thinking it has accelerated, but that's the acceleration. It was doing this. Now it's accelerated a little bit, but it still hasn't broken it, right? Nobody's done enough yet for me from the buyers. Jets is up almost 3%, Kevin. Almost 3. But when you look at that and you're like, yeah, almost 3, but it's still just kind of in a pretty precipitous drop zone. That's not enough for me to be like, damn, look at those buyers coming in. It's like, meh, yeah, there's a few buyers. Johnson & Johnson. I don't know. I kind of is starting to look like, and this is another thing that I'm watching for, and I'll be curious for over the weekend, doing some sector rotation. Are we starting to ebb out of healthcare and discretionary? And if so, where are we going into? It's not technology or financials yet, right? Did the cryptos find some support? Not yet. Let's see. Probably a little bit today, right? I mean, 7%. It's a big day, right? We know that it's a more volatile thing. Let's see what Ethereum is. ETH. 9% on Ethereum, 7%, 7.5% on Bitcoin. But that was nasty coming down here, right? And we tested 25 yesterday. Next stop is 20, and then 12. That's the levels that I see if we continue down. So what are we going to see here? I mean, it might be a couple of days up. This one for me is probably the halfway point of this candle. If it gets back to the halfway point of this candle and can't get through it, more bearishness to come. If it can get above that and almost get to this gap or into this gap, that's enough that I might look for that head and shoulders on that next dip. Where were we? Jets, Johnson & Johnson. Here's Marriott, still just coming down. Marvell, new lows yesterday. It's a great day, 6%. If kind of wonder if Putin dumped, right? It's 6%. If you owned the stock and you just watched it drop from 90 to 50, 6% will make you pretty happy. If you're just watching this, you're not like, oh, yeah, look at how bullish. You're like, okay, we're bouncing off new lows. If the buyers only give it 2 or 3 days, there's another bear flag, right? It's Microsoft barely coming off of new lows. Microsoft is in that same camp. We know that we have to watch Apple and Microsoft a little more closely than the others because of what level of composite they are in the indexes, right? 11 and 10 in the NASDAQ. That's 21% of the NASDAQ, those two stocks. And it's like 7 and 6 in the S&P. So 13% of the S&P, 13% of a 500 stock index is Microsoft and Apple. So clearly those things are going to struggle as long as these things continue to struggle. NEO, look at NEO up 8%. Still nothing there. Nikola doesn't get sung again until it has resumed some sort of an uptrend. NVIDIA still just can't find the bottom. Maybe it has. The Qs are up 2.5%. Looking, I mean, 2.5%, it's a good day, but we're still in that downward consolidation with this 2.5% day. We need another one of these at least, if not two, before we're like, okay, there's the buyers. Starbucks, 5%. Starbucks is an interesting one. we actually were watching to see if it was going to hold in here, right? If that held and turned, because that broke. But now we're kind of right back in it. I don't know. I kind of feel like if I was drawing, I would draw it like this now. So it hasn't done enough. I would need to see a little bit more and then see it consolidate a little bit. And then, okay, Starbucks in China. Now you mean something. Silver, whew, it's down. Whoever's like, I'm going to protect against inflation with silver. I don't think it worked. Semiconductors still kind of dogs. The SPY, 1.6% now. It still needs to be more, but let's go look at the opening range. We'll just keep meandering higher. I needed to get back up into this area, 403, I think is what we said, right? 403 to 405. But let's just talk about what that looks like real quickly here. So you can see here's where we are now, where we said 403 to 405, because that puts us at break even and actually even making a little bit of money. The hard part is we've moved into a theta negative scenario right now. That's why I think anything north of 400 for me would be, I'm going to go ahead now and put this other piece on. The other piece I have is a 365, 390, 415 butterfly, which would look like, now it was 565. That seems off. I'm not sure. I don't know why I thought that would have been cheaper. What do we pay for the first one? We paid $25.02 plus 170 minus 992 minus 992, 688. Okay, so I guess 615 would be reasonable. But if we put this other piece on, we do go back into theta positive territory. Would still be better if it gets up. If it gets up here, it would be better. To put this on, and then when we put that on, we get the weekend, and then by the time we're talking, it's still a little slow, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking about there. Does this move up into that range? Okay, where are we? SPY. Let's get the charts back up. You tell me, am I missing anything? Am I missing any? Oh, we just keep pushing 1.88%. What? Oh, it probably is cheaper, isn't it? You're right. I think I am lagged. That is a good point. I think you're right. Yeah. Right. That looks much cleaner. And that just kind of gets you in this spot so that as time goes, you can see it really is about there that you're kind of like, okay, this thing is probably done. If you're in this back range, you could hold another day or two to catch that. But this would generate anywhere from $300-400 on this side, a couple $100 in the middle still, and then 500, 400 or 500 over on this side, and then you're out of the trade. You're good between 380 and 440 is your range, right? So yeah, let's see if this thing gets a little higher. 380s down here below the low, 440s up here. That's your range. If you get that a piece on right up in this area, that you can just carry into June. That's it. That's the objective, right? So definitely be watching for that. Look at us now, 1.88. 580. Okay, hold on 1 second. You know what? Just in case I don't see it, I might even put this at 585. I could live with 585. I'm going to just slap that on, but I'm going to watch it in the afternoon. Then I'll see how close it is. And there it is. That's the butterfly. Nice little time decay strategy. Tilray, big day yesterday for some pot stocks. They haven't done enough, right? If you can get up here to 5, then I'd be like, okay, that's enough for the buyers. Then what? Then I need it to not drop to 4. Drop to 450. That's fine. I want to trade the higher low. Here is a great representation of that type of a scenario right here, right? We need them to do enough. Then we need them to not to do as much, and then that's our trade. Then we have something. I'm glad you like it, Fred. Thank you. I appreciate the comment. So yeah, patience on pot. Patience on pot. Tesla. I mean, it's steepened, right? It was kind of consolidating this way, and it definitely seems like it's now steepened. It's just like, what's the angle there? Definitely needs more before it gets less, and then we have something. As of now, though, not much. No, it's not that convincing. You tell me, are you being convinced more than I am? Is there something you're seeing that is more convincing than what I've been seeing here? Let me know. Covered calls on Tilray. So the biggest problem is they are paying. Wait a second. Where's my implied volatility? Where is it? How do I keep, like, what is going on? I need to start saving more templates because I'm like, I mean, you can see back here, there was a ton of vol. Here, it's definitely good, 120%. The problem is if your covered calls don't keep pace with the drop in capital. A drop from 5 down to, well, I mean, now it's back to 460, but if you were doing covered calls and you bought the stock at $5 or $6, you're still probably underwater trying to play catch up. I think you could eventually catch up, but it just might take a little bit. Tesla, like we said, not great. UNG. All right, UNG, I'm starting to lose patience. I know you're like, what? I'm going to give it a little bit more because we know it can kind of meander a little bit, but that's a tough one right there. I'd like to, if we start coming back down on Monday, I'm done with it. It's got to keep going. UNH is now just in a downward consolidation. There's nothing there. Visa. Small bounce. It's just not enough. Everything is nothing's real convincing right now. VIX is down at 29.66. That's great. Like we said, if we get one more day down, but it doesn't get below, and you can see the 50 maybe, puts it here maybe around 27.75. Like I said, 28. One more down day, and then it turns off of it. That could either be the first step towards that capitulation low where things really get nasty for that last drop. And that could be a big one. Or it might be a small drop and we get a higher low. So if it's going to be the big drop, you've got to trade bearishly in advance of it and then be willing to close it and quickly shift bullishly if it does the opposite. That's the only way to trade that. Or you got to just watch and wait. If you're like, nah, I'm not going to try for that last down one, then wait to see if you get the higher low and lower high and see if you trade the bullish move coming out of the bounce. SPY, are we still going up? It looks like it, right? Our VIX is at lows for the day. Have we broken 2%? Not quite yet. 1.86, but definitely looks good, right? Definitely looks good. VIX XLP. It really does seem like it's in this consolidation. I mean, it really is stabilized, but it's kind of like a descending triangle. This is coming down. This seems to be going sideways. If we break this to the downside, I think we're heading back towards 71, and money flowing out of staples can flow some into somewhere else, and that might help to shape the market reversing if that's what we see when we see the VIX do its thing. XLU utilities. You can see it's kind of the same thing where it's like it's not quite sure. Can it break out of this? Then I would trade utilities there. If it breaks down out of this, I think it's coming back towards 65. We're at an interesting time, right? I feel like we've been patient. I feel like this could be what sets us up for the next actually good sets of trades. So, let's be looking for that. I'm pretty sure Vlad will be here for the round table, and he'll be here later this afternoon. And then he'll be here again on Monday. And then I won't see you guys until Tuesday. It feels like such a long gap. No mornings like we have had on Mondays. I'm going to miss it. But, yeah, there you go. If you want to put something bullish on, I think Facebook is is the only thing that's really showing that type of a confirmed pattern into a setup. But let's keep an eye on it. Let's see. Do we get it? Do we get one more day? Do we get more than that? And we'll take it from there. Thank you very much for coming out this morning, hanging out, participating. I got great energy from you guys, and it really makes it enjoyable and easier for me. So I appreciate that. Hope you have a great weekend. Be safe. See you Tuesday. As always, happy trading.